Hello there. Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 8 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here again to bring you another tip on how to help you create the life you want. Specifically, how to use my life from the top of the mind philosophy to bring more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do. Today I want to talk about the concept of empathy. If you'll notice, that's kind of in the news a lot. I think if you've ever taken any kind of course in interpersonal communication, empathy is part of it. It's certainly part of my 6-step model for effective communication and influence. I recently saw a TED Talk by Frei, who is a dean at the Harvard Business School, where she talked about empathy as being one of the 3 main ingredients, necessary ingredients. She calls it a triangle, I call it a 3-legged stool, that are necessary to create trust. So there's several things I want to address in this short video. Number 1, what is true empathy? Number 2, why is it so important? Number 3, why is it so rare? And number 4, how can we bring this important, rare component into our communication so that we are more effective? So number 1, what is true empathy? I'm reading a book by Brene Brown called Dare to Lead. Excellent book. I would really recommend you pick that up if you are into leadership or parenting or any way of talk about influencing other people. She talks about empathy in this way. I've kind of adapted it a little bit, but she says, true empathy isn't just understanding another's experience. It's connecting with the emotion that underpin that experience. Let me go through that again. True empathy isn't really just understanding another's experience. Like you're talking to someone, you said, yeah, okay, well, I can understand what you're saying, but they're not going to feel connected. They're not going to feel understood. That but kind of basically wipes out everything you just said. So it's not just about understanding another's experience, and I think that's hard enough. A lot of times when I talk to people about the importance of empathy, they go, well, man, what they're saying just doesn't make any sense. I can't say I understand because it means I agree, and therefore empathy is out the window. So again, this isn't about necessarily agreeing with them. It isn't even about just understanding them. It's connecting with the emotion that underpins that experience. So if we'll look at that as true empathy, we can then go to, okay, well then why is it so important? Well, let me ask you this question. Have you ever been talking to someone and you could just tell by the way they were talking to you, they didn't get it? They either didn't understand your perspective or they just didn't understand the situation in general. Did you notice you weren't really eager to hear what they said next because you didn't think they understood the situation in the first place? If we want people to be eager to hear what we say next, if we want them to be open to our perspective, they've got to know we get theirs. And getting theirs, again, doesn't mean we necessarily agree with it, but it does mean that we connect with the emotion that is underpinning it. So how can we know if we are doing that? Well, they will let us know. If you will kind of empathize with someone and they go, exactly, you now know that you have indeed empathized with them. If you try to empathize with them, they go, well, yeah, but, and then they kind of tell you where you've missed it, that's really good information. You want to take that not as criticism, but as really good information, because it means we've missed part of it. So it's critical if we want people to get us that we get them. If we want them to hear us, we've got to be willing to hear them. Seek first to understand and then be understood. And yet now we're taking that deeper thanks to Brene Brown. It's not just about understanding, it's connecting with the emotion that underpins their experience. So that's why it's so important. It is a critical component to a conversation moving forward where we're truly working to understand and hear the other person. Why is it so rare? Well, for those of you who follow my life from the top of the mind philosophy, you kind of know this. I talk about how we got these 3 parts to the brain. Lower part of the brain is called the brainstem. This is where our fight or flight responses are located. Upper 80% of the brain is what I call the top of the mind, the neocortex. This is where we have access to our interpersonal skills, problem-solving skills, clarity, confidence, creativity, compassion, etc. Middle part of the brain, limbic system, acts as a scanner, processor, router. It scans incoming data and either routes it down to that lower brain where we get angry, stressed, frustrated, and resentful, or to the upper 80% of the brain where we're able to lean into a conversation and truly empathize with someone in a way that they feel truly understood and that we've connected with the emotions that underpin that experience. So Unless we are in this upper 80% of the brain, unless we are clear, confident, creative, unless we are courageous enough and confident enough to be vulnerable, to be curious, it won't work. And for most of us, that's a rare concept, the concept that we have to be vulnerable and curious in order to be courageous. What is all about? You know, aren't we just debating with someone? We'll kind of tell them what we think, they'll tell us what they think, and whoever has the best argument wins? No. Because when it's an argument, nobody's really listening to the other person. We're just trying to convince the other person of the righteousness of our perspective. And just think of a debate. You know, when you see a debate, the debaters aren't trying to convince the other debater. They're trying to convince some third party, some judge or some panel, and who wins the debate has something to do with whether this third party agrees with the particular perspective. So don't make your conversations with people a debate. It's really not going to serve you. Instead, we want to be in this upper 80% of the brain. So in my model of effective communications, it's a 6-step model. The first step is we have to be clear about the qualities and characteristics we are bringing to the conversation, no matter what they say, no matter what they do. We have to be willing to take 100% responsibility for our ability to respond. Or if we want them to be accountable for their perspective, we've got to be accountable for the qualities and characteristics we bring to the conversation. I encourage people to list those and so that you know who you are going in. Then we've got to be really clear about what we want to bring out. We want to access the best of them. We want to connect with the best of them. We're not trying to stop the worst of them. Because if we try to stop the worst of them, they will hear that as criticism and get defensive. Number 3, we got to listen and learn what's important to them. And number 4, we got to let them know we get it. That's where the empathy comes in. Number 5, we ask what I call a neocortex question, which is a question about the solution in the future. That's where we blend what's important to us with what's important to them. But we can't get to number 5 until we do step 4. We can't blend what's important to us with what's important to them until they know we get it. So that's why it's so rare, because most of us go into these kind of conversations either in this lower brain, or someone says something to us that triggers us and it throws us into that lower brain, and empathy is often the last thing on our mind. So, question 5, how can we bring this important component into our conversations? Well, first, we've got to understand what it is, why it's so important, why it's so rare, so that we recognize that being empathetic is not just some tool. It's not just some way of manipulating them. It's not just some way of getting them to stop telling us what they think. It is a process of understanding and connecting with the emotions that underpin their experience so that they are now in a position to hear what we have to say in an open perspective. They are no longer defending the right to believe and think what they think and believe. See, that's the problem. Most people come to us thinking they have to defend their right to their perspective. And so when we're challenging that, they just get more defensive, and now we are kind of what I call banging brain stems, basically. We're both in that lower 20% of the brain. But if we're willing to take responsibility for the qualities we bring into the conversation, if we're willing to hold an image of them at their best, so we're connecting with their best, if we're willing to truly listen and really get what's important to them and then let them know we get it by connecting to the emotions that underpin that experience, we are now in a position to have this kind of solution-focused conversation because both they and us are in this upper 80% of the brain. Easier said than done? Absolutely. So the good news is, this is what I do. This is what I love to do. I get to go around the world teaching this philosophy to people. I have a book called Life from the Top of the Mind that takes you step by step through this process. If you'll notice on my YouTube channel, I've got about 350 short videos on this concept. I post these on iTunes and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Twitter. So feel free to follow me, Facebook. Feel free to follow me on any of that social media and you will get these. So what I like to do is bring you new information. And what I want you to leave with today is this quote that I adapted from Brene Brown. True empathy isn't just understanding another's experience. It's connecting with the emotions that underpin that experience. Once we can do that, we are now in a position to blend what's important to them with what's important to us and move more into a solution-focused conversation. If you want me to come and teach your organization or you how to do this, this is what I love to do. Just go to my website, Bill Crawford, Ph.D.com. Hit the contact button. Let me know what you're interested in. Love to talk with you about that. By the way, if you're liking these videos, please hit the like button. You know how everybody loves it when you like it. Share it with your friends if you feel it's valuable. So, until we meet again, here is to you, bringing more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.